guest today. We'll be talking about the importance of customer service. Now, we had a discussion just before we came in, and one thing that she shared, and that is usually true, is that most business leaders think that it's the frontline staff that need training when it comes to customer service. What they fail to realize is that the excellence in quality of service starts right from the top and starts with the business leader. And it's the business leader that creates the culture that everyone else adopts and is able to help the organization become a business that everyone wants to go to, and the user experience is exciting. And so she'll be telling us a little bit about how we can accomplish that. She is Mrs. Margaret Takyi-Micah, and she runs the customer service, a firm that focuses on teaching customer service. And her company is behind the Customer Service Academy, which is the first of its kind in Ghana. So help me welcome Mrs.
Thank you, yourself, for the kind words, and thank you all for coming this evening. Several decades, perhaps longer than some of you were born. And one of the roles that I did was trying to fix the customer service agenda, setting the agenda and implementing it. And whilst doing that in the last 15 years or more, I also helped my husband set up some companies that you may know about. Afrodan Limited, which is into office furniture, and then also Bufola and Naibo, which is a picture framing company. There are others I will not talk about for now. But my experience at Barclays actually set me on the customer service agenda. First of all, many years ago, we had an MD who had a mystery shop done, and I was selected as one of the people who had performed well. And so they had a big do. I didn't even keep the pictures, I didn't think much of it because nobody used to talk about customer service. And so I dropped it in my memory for many years until I had the opportunity to be a branch manager. I was employed at that time as a graduate management trainee, and we were the first batch of women graduates. Can you imagine? So we had to go through the whole mill, and you needed to perform twice as hard to be noticed, let alone recognized. And that was a good experience because I learned not to let the status quo stop me. And fortunately, because I have a supportive husband, I always say that he allows me to do what I want to do, which is a good thing. But that was the beginning, and then I had the opportunity to set up a branch. At that time, the Achimota branch. We moved, and I would call it my call to fame, because we set out to make that branch outstanding, with customer service as the key differentiator. There weren't that many banks, but the customers began to notice. With all hands on deck, we had targets at that time. Most banks didn't have targets for account opening and so on. But we were the guinea pigs, so we were supposed to have targets for opening accounts every day. And so we started doing creative things, thinking out of the box, doing things that we hadn't done before, going out to meet customers, to present, to tell them about what we were doing. 18 months, in fact, less than 18 months, 10 months down the line, I was asked to move into head office to help move the customer service agenda. And to be honest, the people who asked me to do it didn't have a clue what they wanted to do, but it's like, let's replicate what you've done. That is where my belief in service as a key differentiator actually came to the fore. And I've been living with that since, for any opportunity that I get. Because I also saw that even though in Barclays they wanted to have customer service agenda on the plate. It was not clear. It wasn't clear internally. It wasn't clear in the group how that should be done. And every 3 or 4 years, the leadership would change, and they would come with what was important. The customer was always in there, but the actions on the ground were actually averse to keeping the customer, because the actions were actually revolting, and it is not just them, but generally, you would say, that's why I said the leadership. The leadership say, it's all about the numbers. You've got to get the sales targets right. And if you haven't got it, you haven't got it. But I always say that service and sales are inextricably linked. So you can't have a sales target without focusing on the customer. So when Genevieve called me, I said, well, I think I have a topic that I would like to talk about. So the importance of the customer in a world-class business, because you can have all the other deliverables. I could see something here. I had a quick. So they have a customer segment. So that'll be the right company. So now I think I'll need your help. Yeah, it's a touch screen. So the importance of the customer. So I said, well, world class, I'm sure you have defined it till you have gone blue. But I would still like to talk about it, because we need to have an understanding of what we mean by world class. And try everything. I always say yes before I say no, and figure out how. So world class, I said that ranking among the world's best, being outstanding. That is one definition I came across. And then attracting or comprising world class players and performers. And I have a client who walked in and said, found you on the internet, can we train my people? We're a very small company, but we want to be among the big players. But we want to do what the big players do. So we want to make sure that we get everything right. So he brought in a bunch of people, and interestingly, I had to do some of the training in the local language because some of the people couldn't speak English. So world class means bringing players and performance, people who are performers. Another definition is the business dictionary definition is goods and services, processes that are run by customers and industry experts to be among the best of the best. So your ranking is not just what you think when you've had a nice meal and you're happy, but what your industry experts and indeed what your customers say. Then that designation denotes what a standard of setting excellence. And I believe in service we must have standards. It's because we don't have standards, that is why we provide mediocre service. And when you have multiple touch points or entry points, you find that to get a consistency, it becomes difficult because we don't have that standard. So we talk about setting excellence in terms of design, performance, quality, and customer satisfaction and value when compared with all similar items anywhere else in the world. And so I know that most people, when they talk about business, will be talking about profits. I mean, who doesn't want to make profit? We'll talk about shareholder value, which is very key to all of us. We'll talk about the systems. And I'm now learning, we've got to have some more high-tech stuff. But the systems I'm talking about is not only about physical systems like we know, technology and other things, but how things work around here. Those are the systems we're talking about. And then the processes, they are linked, so the process of when you walk into a bank or to an airline and you want a service done, how is it, what happens, how long is it going to take? And then the service, I said service stroke self-delivery, because you may be providing a service, but then there's a way in which you want that service to be delivered. And then of course the customer. I put the customer at the bottom because that's what we often do. When we thought about everything else, and we say, where is the customer? But really, we should be starting from the customer. Who is my customer? And I'm I'm sure when Sam was thinking about having ServLed, he had some people in mind, the kind of people he wanted to attract. And so that focus is important because it will feed into the products you provide, the ambience and so on, everything. And so if the customer is at the center, truly at the center of all that you do, you would find that your products will be right. And as I was thinking through, I mean, my mother is in her 80s, and she gets a text from her insurance company that her insurance is due. For goodness sake, I mean, at that time she had lost her sight, and even if she hadn't, she wants the paper. I mean, let me see the paper. So, we've got high tech. Some may want to have the text, but an 18-year-old mind doesn't want your text. And when you are out of town, sometimes you miss that text, and you don't even know how much is due, and so on. It's always sent to you by text. For all you may know, the phone is missing. So if we don't focus on the customer, we find that the world-class business is actually missing. When everything goes forward. They didn't tell me the full story. It's a touch screen. How do I get the screen to show it? Okay. So in short, what I'm saying is that the components of world-class business is all these things that you have been looking at in the past, but you must focus on the customer. And I know that when the finance people come, they say you have to look at the bottom line. Remember, I come from a finance background, so I understand that. You've got to get the sales targets, you've got to get it right. But I am saying that start with the customer. Who is my customer? Because increasingly, the businesses that we have run, the customers have actually dictated the product. You may have a product you want to deliver, but the customer will say, I want it in this way. I mean, one will have thought that if you want to frame a picture, you will bring the picture physically. The clients are now asking us, can you send it to me electronically? And you see somebody sitting in your shop, taking a picture of the frame and sending it to somebody else to take a decision. So for goodness sake, why don't you put the picture close to it? Which means that the model has got to change because the customer has changed. And you see, we don't have some of the supporting systems that we have elsewhere, where in the US you would send your picture or your frame to somebody, your picture or the artwork, and then it can be mailed to you. We don't have a mailing system that allows you to do that. So you find that, you find that, so then I always like to talk about Jack Council. The Jack Council, because in my view, he was probably one of the first CEOs who actually said, I'm going to try this model of using the customer. And it worked. And how did it work? He turned two companies around, airlines, and one of them was Scandinavian Airlines. He said that if we focus on the customer and we made sure that all that we did was in favor of the customer, we would make money. So that's exactly what he set out to do. So when you talk about processes, he would go and say, what would the customer prefer? And he would go to the customer here in this sense, I'm talking about both the internal and external. He would go to the internal customer and say, how come we have promised that if you send a package to us, it will take just 4 days, but it takes 2 weeks. So, because the package is in the next room, and to go to the next room, you've got to climb a ladder or something, something really crazy to let it happen. So how can we get this thing to happen? And he found that the internal customer had the answers. Let's do this and that, and the package will actually move through. So they did it for every area of the business. And in addition to that, they empowered the people. Often, as business leaders, we like all of the power to be with us. So if a customer wants a discount, call boss. If a customer is not happy with something, call boss. So we find that the people are not empowered, so they become robots. And the banks are a typical example of robots. Everywhere. No, they just don't think this is the rule. And the airlines, I don't want to mention their name because, but one airline said, this is what so and so airline pays me to do. That's what they said. That's what they pay me to do. So I just do what they do. So the moments of truth. It's saying that every interaction with a customer is important, whether it's by phone, email, text, whatever means, it's important, and we must focus on that. So he says that however remote it is, a customer forms an impression. So if you are a business owner and the customer is forming an impression of you even before they have seen you, that is what it is. And so you must ask yourself, how do I touch my customers, and how can I ensure that those touch points are doing exactly what I set out to do? If you don't want to have interaction with your clients, and that is what you aimed at doing, fair enough. But if you want that experience to be better, you've got to do that. There's a whole ball game about customer experience management, but that's not my focus this evening. Then so research has indicated consistently, wherever you pick it up from, it says customers are looking for organizations whose staff understand customers' needs and create appropriate solutions to add value. So what's the customer's need? If I'm dealing with an insurance company, yes, I want to be covered, but I can't always come to your head office or your branch so far away just to come and pay my premium. I've got the money, but I haven't got the time. How else can I make that payment? So how do you know what the need of the customer is? And if you have a bank, you may have a product which says that I've got a high net worth place, people must come to a certain place and have the coffee and tea. And then you have a client, perhaps like some, who says, I'm a no-frills customer, just give me my internet. For what I've seen. Let me do internet banking. I don't want your coffee and your tea. But perhaps someone like me would like you to massage me, give me coffee and tea, stroke me and so on. Then I say, wow, I'm feeling so good. So we may be in the same bracket, but the needs are different. How do we identify those needs and deal with them? And so then I said, customer focus. I was just reading something about Warren Buffett, and he was talking about various things. And he said, speak to other person's wants and needs. In other words, in dealing with people, whether they are your employees or whether you are your customers, speak to their needs. Because if they have a need and you don't meet that need, and the discussion we're having outside of here, someone has a need, he has a complaint, or he has a challenge, or something like that, and you don't speak to that need. You know, I was very, very, excited when Genevieve called me and said, I know it's raining, I just wanted to know how you're doing. I mean, it's not like, are you going to be okay? That would have been the approach. But the need is, are you? I said, wow, I really would like to be with this group because you are speaking to my need. Are you okay? And so the customer wants you to find out whether they are okay with what you're providing. I mean, you go to the hairdressing salon or the barber shop, and they decide that, this is the latest haircut and you must have it. And if you don't have the hair, when are you going to have the latest haircut? So is that what you want? It might be the latest, but that's not for you. Yes, you want to be trendy in other ways, but you don't want to be. But are they looking, to see whether you are, you can see that somebody wants to give you a haircut, and maybe from your childhood you are averse to haircuts. So the moment you see the barber scissors, you begin to shiver, and they're wondering what's wrong with him or her. It's because, I had a bad haircut when I was 3 years old and I haven't overcome it yet. So I don't want that experience. So constantly, and you see, dealing with the customers, whether it's your frontline people or yourself, you find that the customers always tell you what they like. When I find myself in my shop, I say, thank you for your custom. Are we serving you right or something like that? So, yeah, I come here all the time. Some of them will say, because you're here, give me a discount and that kind of thing. But really to see, are you satisfied? Because if you don't gather the courage to ask the customer whether they are satisfied, you think because they come and give you their money. They do, but sometimes, some of the people are trapped. Many of us are trapped with our bankers. Because we took a loan, we've got to pay, but really, we want to be out of there. Because if you had an alternative, you'd go elsewhere. I mean, I have a local shop, what we call provision shop in Ghana, where they sell everything that you need. They're beginning to change. But initially, you could see that they knew that, you always remember something that you needed, and you end up in the shop. And then people treated you like dead, it's like, what are you here for? But And I kept saying if I had time, I would open a similar shop just across the street to give them competition. And that is what our competitors will do. So if you don't look after your customers, your competition will take them away. And you won't even know it. You won't even know it because you haven't paid attention to who your customer is. And if you had, you know, I started with 100 at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, the minimum is you should have that 100 and more. You shouldn't have less. If you have less, where did they go? And did you see them going away? Or because you were so busy getting new business? And I have a slide that usually shows it where you have the buckets with holes in it, where the customers we are bringing in are just leaking like a bucket, just going out because we're not paying attention. We're not looking after them. So in short, you say speak to other person's needs and their wants. They want something. I want you to send me a text once a year to say happy birthday to me. Another person says, I don't want you even to know my date of birth because it reminds me that I'm so one size doesn't fit all when we focus on the customer. So if you know your customer in your business area, then you begin to think like them, begin to see things from their perspective. Because perspective is different. I mean, it's very important. You think it's fine, but they say it's not fine. Isn't it refreshing if fortunately it wasn't raining when we came in, but if you went into a bank and it was raining and somebody appeared with an umbrella, wow. You know, in those days the people used to actually run to get a place, a spot in the queue. Now with the competition, it's different. So if you don't know who your customer is, you'll be providing them with things that you think are nice to have, but which they will not appreciate. So I know some doesn't like the international, but I like to because, you know, well-known companies. Southwest Airlines is one of my favorites, and there are others. There's Nordstrom, and there's also Commerce Bank. But today I just decided to go to Southwest. The reason because they still remain, you know, tops in whatever they are doing. So they must be doing something right. But when the first time you go into Southwest Airline, and I like to check them out, it's not just about reading them, I begin to, what's this all about? But they said they're a no-frills airline. They start off by giving you a fairly reasonable fare, and then compared to others, they are also able to provide service at times when others won't. Maybe on a Friday night, a long weekend, come back on Sunday night. So that fits the people who use that service. And they say no frills in the summertime. You see the ladies in shorts and t-shirts. That's not my idea, but it works. They say we want to be relaxed, and we want, as they said, we want to be fun-loving. So that is what they have set out to do. So what have you set out to do? And who are the people you want? But because they become successful, others keep asking, can you come to our area? Can we come to our area? Which means they're doing something right. They move the planes on time. They make sure that things are not so stringent. It's free sitting. In our parlance, it's like drop. But you know, you sit anywhere there's space, but you still appreciate it. So they said they were recently number 4, Fortune's World Most Admired Company. So many people who know us understand why, but some say they still wonder how we do it. And it's simple. He said they have a strong culture. So I am suggesting that if we have a customer-focused culture in our organizations, we will begin to also have a culture of our own. The next time when I come, I will be referring to your businesses and not another business. So they said that the best service for both our internal customers, that's the employees, and external customers, they say that's their culture, it's unique. And I have seen it at work, and I know it's truly unique. And they said what? They went on to talk about some of the things that said the Southwest way. So you can also have the ServLed way, or whatever your way is, and that would be your way, and you just ensure that you go on that. They say they like people who have what? Warrior spirits, servants' hearts. When I heard servants' hearts, I said, are they from the biblical lineage or whatever? Then fun-loving attitudes, and attitude is so important. And then about each employee is also encouraged to color outside of the lines. That's what we understand about thinking outside the box. So even their technology is different, isn't it? And then when appropriate, in doing what is right by our customers and our company. That's what they said. So perhaps enough of it. I mean, there are details about what the Southwest way is, the warrior spirit, which is hard work. And we all want to work hard. We want our employees to work hard also. And then we also talk about the servant following the golden rule, which is do unto others. And when we bring that in customer service, I mean, if you were in the queue waiting to be served, how would you like to be treated? If you were waiting to get that product, how would you like to be treated? If you were waiting to get something finished, somebody says, I'll call you by close of day, and they don't call you by close of day, it means you have failed with the golden rule, isn't it? And then the fun-loving, don't take yourself too seriously, maintain a perspective of balance. And I'll be talking a bit about balance shortly. So then they say that happy employees, happy customers result in what? Increased business profits. Interestingly, next of ideas, our logo says better profits, better service, better profits. My husband tells me it's not good English, but I said that's what we do.
Sounds Nigerian.
So the whole thing is that we must get the employee side right in order to get the service right. Unfortunately, I get to see the employees during training, and they like to offload all the issues. But really, if I'm speaking to the executives, I would say, get the employee bit right, so that they can do what you want them to do. And getting the employee bit right doesn't mean you pay them a whole lot. Just pay attention to their needs and simple things. I mean, you may be Christian, but it's Salah, and you give your employee who is a Muslim something to go and buy rice and chicken, wow, just as you do at Christmas. Things like that. Oh, so how is that child of yours? Just paying attention to little details and also rewarding people who excel. Because you find that you do have dedicated people, and if you need to recognize them in simple but not necessarily difficult ways. And so if a force of 35,000 employees, they are able to do that special thing. I don't think any of us here have 35,000 employees yet. Can I see back? We get there. So they said their culture is about the people, isn't it? The people, and they've done that for 40 years. That must be doing something right. Another company that I have been visiting is Nostrum. I haven't been able to afford anything there yet. But I just wanted to find out. And when you look at it historically, because we also would like our companies to go beyond our generation, isn't it? And they said right from the beginning, they focused on the customer. And they did things that will ensure that we got the thing right. And they have been said to have legendary service, because they've actually gone to the stage of finding that we all don't have the same size foot. You don't know why some shoes, when you buy them, one foot is tighter than the other. So they actually measure your foot. And you see a big man or woman bending down to measure your foot. Wow. I mean, I will save till I can buy a pair of shoes. That's how they started, and they've continued throughout the generation. People who like to help people is what they do. So in choosing your employees, you want people who are helpful and friendly. Because there are some people who, they may have the PhD you want, they may have all the qualifications, but they're not helpful at all. You ask them each question, you have to draw the response out of them before they can tell you what to do. And that makes doing business with your company difficult. So then that breaks me. So what ServLed has done, it seems like this seems to have the service profit chain. And the service profit chain, if you look at the first one, talk about the internal service quality. So you have to get it right, the workplace design. Where do things fit? Even if it's a little factory, are things moving in the right direction and so on. Talk about the job design, who does what and so on. Employee selection and development. After you've selected them, you might have hired people with the right attitude, but you've got to train them for the skills. But if you choose to hire people who have got the skills, they may not always have the right attitude, and they can mess things up. And so it goes on to talk about the tools for serving customers. Because you can put somebody in a place, he has got a telephone, he has got to call the customer, he can't call the customer, and he has to send an email, he hasn't got a computer or a laptop, he has to, everything he has to do, he hasn't got it. He hasn't got the tools, so he's not able to do it. So the internal service must ensure that things are right. Then the employee satisfaction. Sometimes we think it's always about salary. The work environment, people feeling, appreciated in the environment helps people to have employee satisfaction. And that dovetails into what we call employee retention and productivity, because the satisfied employees will remain with you. It's okay also when you less them and they go elsewhere, but you've got to also understand that some people will move because the environment is not the best. And sometimes the business owner may be doing it right, but there's a middle manager or somebody who is really creating hell. And when you look the other way, you pay the price for it. And then that leads into what we call the external service value. That is what they actually deliver to the customers. And then, of course, if the customers are happy or satisfied with the service, it leads to what? Customer satisfaction. And so, continually, measuring the service that you receive and so on. Then, of course, customer loyalty, retention, which we all want, repeat business and referrals. And then that, of course, leads to what we all look out for, profitability and revenue growth. So you can see that even though we are talking customer, the customer permeates into every area of our businesses. And so if we have the customer in focus, you will see that we will get our desired result. Then again, I was told most of you have a finance background, a balance scorecard. Usually when we talk about the balance scorecard, I remember the first time I encountered the balance scorecard, I was doing my MBA, and this thing, the finance lecturer was like, what on earth is this? But when I found that balance scorecard is not only about finance, but it's just saying that let's get the balance right. Let's not just focus on profits. Let's not just focus on sales. Let's not just focus on processes and having nice systems and so on. But let's get the balance right, isn't it? So I will start from the finance because that's what we like to do. But you can see that these arrows are going in different directions. What it's saying is that the internal processes must work. The internal processes being not just the systems, but also how things are done around here, and how efficiently they are done. All that, and you can see we have objectives, measures, targets, and so on. So we should look at the internal processes. Okay, if we've got a good product, if we put it in the right place, but our turnaround time is not the best. We can't do a 3-day that we have promised, then do the 2-week, what do we do to improve it? So working on those things, and then that talks about learning and growth. Learning and growth referring to the people we have, who we hire, what the skills they have, what we train them to do, and so on. And then ensuring that they develop to go to the level we want to get to. So to achieve the vision, how will we sustain our ability to change and improve? What can we do? Are our people able to change? And are we ourselves able to change? Because sometimes we are the people actually standing in the way of changing our organization. And so when this is happening, you've got people with the right skills, you can see that it fits into the customer, because the customer then receives the product, the service that he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it. And then, of course, if you're getting repeat business, it will lead to your financial. So the vision and the strategy, when we look at it, and now people have made a whole big thing out of the balance scorecard, creating various things to train people in. But for our purposes, all we are saying is that there's a linkage in all that we do in the organization, including the customer who we have made lonely for a long time. So recently, actually in 2012, Pricewaterhouse had something, and I've just paraphrased it, but they asked the CEOs of various brands, what is one thing that you think is going to change or needs to change for survival? And they said the people, as the customer. customer and the staff. Which means that lip service to customers is going to change, or has got to change, because customers have become very, very aware of what goes on around them. They know their options, they know how they're treated elsewhere, because if you get a check or payment from somebody else and you find yourself in another bank, no matter how loyal you are to your current bankers, you will get to experience another bank. And if you're multi-bank like me, you will find that you are always experiencing what is good in various places. So they said the people, the staff, and the customers. So if we don't have that focus, which takes us back to the previous slides that we've looked at, then it means we are missing something. And to be honest, if we talk about the value of the lost customer, if I was to write it, you find that if you lose a customer, you think it's only one little customer. But if you look at the revenue you could have generated from that customer, assuming you take your stuff to the laundry and they upset you, they spoil your outfit, and you say, I will never go to that laundry. And you look at this, you only bring one suit once a year when you are, going to church on Christmas Day or something like that. But that 10 CDs or 12 CDs that you miss, if you translate it over time, that's how much you miss. And if you have your shirts washed, you definitely have to wash them frequently. And even if they're charging you 5 CDs per shirt, and you only bring 5 in a week, how many will you be bringing in a month? You'll bring about 20 items. And 5 times 20 will be how much? How much? 100. So in a month, if they lost you, they will lose 100 CDs. In a year, that's how much? 1,200. In 5 years, what will that be? 6,000. That's straight to the bottom line. So whatever you are charging for your business, or whatever markup you have, if you lose that customer, you lose it, no matter how small they are. Somebody says, well, my bank is not looking after me because they think I only have 100 CDs or 200 CDs. But you're going to get more. That's what I said. You should say amen to that. And so, if you're going to get more, then if you are rejected or not looked after, when you do become big and they want you to have your business, you've gone somewhere else, isn't it? And so I was looking for a customer-focused bank. I was actually looking for Bank of Commerce in America because again, I've heard about them, but the guy sold it, the original owner. So I haven't really been following them. But they were so customer-focused, or they are customer-focused, but they work on Sundays. Number 2, coins. I mean, I've seen somebody who went to a bank with coins in Ghana here, with coins. And the person said, 40,000 in coins? We can't take this kind of money. So somebody said, is it legal tender? He said, yes. But how did you bring 40,000 of it to us? Said, when you translate the money, the service provider was not sure whether they should accept 40,000 in coins. I mean, the question is, where did he get it? And then the person said, there's a money laundering policy. I don't think people launder money in coins. He's probably sold enough ice water by the roadside to make that much money. Maybe 40,000, 4,000, whatever it is. But the point is that, we don't accept coins. We think it's small money. But it's the coins that make the goods, isn't it? So they have created fund for collecting your coins. So they say, put your change in the box. They put a little, like a money bag, but it's a big thing. And you put your coins in that. And so it's like, guess how much you have in coins. So you guess, it must be $1, or we say 20 CDs or 10 CDs. Wow. And when you guess right, they give you a gift. So they're saying, bring even your coins to us. Bring even your coins to us. But if you showed up at a teller's place with church money with coins, we see a lot of coins in the church. And you show with the coins, a teller will look at you, arrange it, and put it in the right denominations, and wait for me to have time to count the coins, forgetting that it adds up. So if somebody else does something creative and says that, make your bringing your coins fun rather than embarrassing. You will just happily and they credit your account with it, or give you a note if that's what you prefer. So you see that others are doing things. So then it says GT named most customer focused bank. Unfortunately, I don't have an account with GT. I say unfortunately, but I've used their service. How did I use the service? I mean, they have a branch next door to where my mother lives. Somebody calls me with an SOS message and says, "Oh, I need $100. I'm in Nigeria. How can I send $100 to you in Nigeria?" So I walk up to this bank and say, "I need to send $100 to somebody in Nigeria." I said, "No problem. Do you have an account?" I said, "No." I said, "Just fill the form, write the person's name and the bank details in the streets." So I go out and ask the person, "What is the name of your bank? which branch is nearest to you? And what's the name of the street?" Wow. And I said $100. They said, "Well, the charges would be 15 Ghana cedis. You can pay in cedis." How easy can it be? I have $100 to send to my friend, and I'm allowed to pay the charges in my local currency. So when they say they're customer focused, I believe it because I've experienced it. I go in there, I use the ATM, my Visa, to take money, and I want smaller denominations, 1 CD notes. So I walk in there and I said, "Can you change this money into 1 CD note?" I'm expecting the usual thing to say, "What? You have an account with us? You take the money from us?" And that kind of thing. They say, "Oh yeah, sure. Sure." And they give me crisp 1 CD notes. That's what I'm talking about. So if they say they're customer focused by any survey, I believe it because of the experience. And then in a session during training, my participant said to me that, "Oh, these people are customer focused." So how do you know that? He said, "It's paperless." But perhaps they're friends of some. It's paperless. You go in there, you want to make a deposit. All you have to do is tell them, "My account number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No paper. You don't fill any form. So nobody needs to know whether you can write well or not. Because you don't have to fill a form. And so they said, "So we like to go there." So they've gone ahead of the pack. Now, this is what the typical bank would say. What if you wrote the wrong account number? We're going to have the thing rejected onto a wrong account, and then we have to look for it and so on. So most of the time, we treat 99% of our clients like the 1% who are either dishonest or doing the wrong thing. One person may have goofed, and because of that, bank statements, you will not get a bank statement because some bank statements were returned. So if we were ought, just go back to the drawing board and say, what is it that went wrong with the system, with the process? Let's fix it. You hear about checks that are clone checks and so on. Let's go to the drawing board and fix it. But you'll be asked for many things, even if you open that bank and put the employee there. It's going to ask you for your ID. Because that's what the system says we must do. And it's not only about the banks, it's also about the insurance companies, it's about everything. You go to the filling station, the petrol, the gas station, and you've got to do things in a certain way, otherwise we can't provide the service to you. So they've been adjudged, so we've come home to say that something is happening here. And this article was written by a gentleman called Mohammed Kaba. He says, the area of customer care, these were the areas they looked at. Customer care, African Bank, they overwhelmingly voted staff friendliness, which means the people aspect, we're back to the people. So if the people are unhappy with the organization, then poor customer suffers. They just dish it out to them. Boss screams at me, I scream at the customer. So they said they like that. It's one of the most things that's affected their survey. And then they say the customer care transaction methods and systems, pricing, products, services, and convenience. So I've just shared my experience with convenience with you. So you can imagine that if that is what is happening across Africa, we must be making some inroads wherever. So, yes. So it says that Africans need to focus on maintaining their financial stability whilst sharpening their customer service capabilities. I think that's a given. So it's not about financial services. We're just saying that we also need to sharpen our customer service capabilities, learn to focus on our customers. We have chosen our target market, and we must decide to do what that target market needs. And we should not assume that they all need the same thing, because they are all different, and one size doesn't fit all. So I'm gradually coming to the end of my presentation. So I found as a world-class customer service, that's in the middle, means the processes must be right, must have the best processes. So maybe now our processes are not the very best, but we want to do something about it. Then we should have the best people, we should hire the best people. And the best people could be people that we can develop to become the best. And then the supply chain, if we have a supply chain, we must make sure that it's sufficient, it works, and we're dealing with all the bottlenecks. With the lean culture, we could be talking about lean in terms of the hierarchy, lean in terms of how we do things around it. Nothing complex and so complicated that we can't get it. And that then will send them to have what we call world-class customer service. The beautiful thing about businesses that are starting out is that you have the opportunity now to focus on it. When it is big, it's difficult to replicate. Not that it's impossible, it's difficult to replicate it across. But when you start and it becomes a culture, like you have heard from stories, Southwest telling us they've done it 40 years, Nostrum has done it for 90 years, and many others. If they have been doing this for a while and it's working, then it means that there's something in it. And we are all trying in our own small way in my shop, and the people are empowered to do what they want to do in terms of whether they can give a discount or not, who gets it. That is not the limit. But if you have multiple shops, it's difficult to control what goes on there, even if you have CCTV, how they will interact with the clients and so on. But when you are present, you know how you can coach them on the job and so on and so forth. So we have a unique opportunity as startups or not so big companies to get that focus. Who is my customer? How can I look after that customer? What do they really need from me? And how, with the resources that I have, begin to actually move into excellence, be world class, so that within my area, there's none that surpasses me in terms of service. When me means you, all of us. And so I found this. To the customer, what do they want? They want quality, they want efficiency, they want service, And sometimes people say, can I get some service here? And they want reliability. Many organizations sit and say, what do our customers want? They want a reliable, what we say we deliver, we will deliver it. Whether it's food or whatever, we are reliable. And if we get things wrong, it should be possible for that lady or gentleman serving the customer change the Coke. If we give the client Pepsi, it says, I want Coca-Cola, not Pepsi. Or I want orange juice and not pineapple juice. And not say that my boss will be angry with me, he's drinking. Yes, we put so much fear in them that, because the cost to you when the customer is unhappy is more than that bottle of that drink. And I've seen a company, I wouldn't mention it because we're upstream, but this company came in as, I would call it a partner, and we were doing something similar, we were producing things. But the focus was not on the customer. If something went wrong, and they say it's too expensive, I can't replace it. Customer, company is no longer in existence. Because as the customers vote with their feet, after a while, you have no business. Some of them will stay with you because they're trapped. If you're living far away somewhere and there's the only convenience store, people will continue buying from you until another one comes. And when another one shows up, you wonder what juju they're using. And the juju they're using is the smile and the care of the customer. Not the price. The price, not the price. Price may have an impact. And I think that in difficult times, in difficult economic times, if you've been looking after your customers, you need not worry. They will come. But if you haven't been looking after them, then you have something to worry about. Because then they start looking for price, they start looking for other alternatives. I had a client who called me and said, "Yeah, in the middle of making some discussion, but we want you. We want to get to the stage where our customers say, we want you." And so even if you have challenges, things have not been delivered, or things are not the way they should be, you will still get them coming in. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will thank you very much for your attention, and I will take your questions if you have any.
My name is Margaret. What's the difference between the client and the customer?
People mix it up, and I mix it up a lot. I would say that it's more of syntax. The lawyers would say they're not customers, they are clients. So certain business areas would say, some of the banks say customer, some say client. So I would say it's more of syntax rather than a difference in terms of who we have. Whoever you deliver a service or a product, or who uses your product or service is your customer. You interact with them one way or the other. So whether you call them customer or client. And before I answer your question, I had somebody give me a testimony in my church and said, I had this persistent problem and I kept going to my pastor. I had become a customer to
if you should keep reading, you don't make profit, but because you want to maintain customers by all means at all costs.
It's a very interesting question.
So how do you maintain that?
The balance. Somebody said to me that I only let a customer who doesn't pay me to go. So if their irritability is because they don't pay you, then you like the customer. Some customers are difficult, but they bring you good money. When they come, they want all your attention. You know that when customer A shows up, they're going to take the rest of your evening, if not tomorrow morning as well. But they bring the money. But you don't say because they don't bring enough. That's why. Why are they difficult? Are you delivering what they want? Do you really understand what they want? Sometimes we don't. And when there are issues, there are people who would like to get their pound of flesh, if I should put it that way. I went to a hairdressing salon. There was this lady who walked in. I didn't know before then that she had an issue. But right from the start, when they said sit here, she had, like somebody was ready to fight. Please sit here. He said politely. And then when they went to wash their hair, the person who was washing her hair, don't do this, don't pull that place. I was observing. I just wanted to see how they would react. We did everything through to the end. And then we passed. Later on, I heard one of the associates say that she had had an experience the previous time, and she was not happy. And in fact, she said she wasn't going to come back there. But she had come this time around, so it's like, I still remember what happened last time. And it's like, I don't think you're going to get it right. So it's up to you to rise above that to get it right. And even say, I'll do this for you. Bend a little over to get it right. Now, difficult depends, it's relative. In your stance, like, I'm having a bad day already, and you have come with your troubles. And see, when we see our customers as difficult or trouble, we also treat them as that. When you see trouble, you also put on your antenna ready to deal with trouble. So I don't know whether you would like to talk about the specific, but it would be good to know specifically what it is that makes our customer difficult. But generally, I would say that the customer is not prepared to pay you. That is what is difficult, because you've got to pay the bills. But if the customer is difficult because their style, the way they want things done, is difficult. And we all can be difficult, sometimes deliberately, to see how people will take care of us. I mean, I walk into a bank and I'm asking for a bank statement, and they are telling me that, we have to charge you 2 CDs per page. I said, 2 CDs? And I'm asking for a whole year. I said, I've been here several times, I've been told the system is down. So what happened to those times? So it's only down for a short time. I'm putting on my difficult stance. I said, I'm not paying 2 CDs. I'm not moving. So they bring in the bank manager. She comes and she tries to coax me. Oh, I've been noticing you coming to this bank, and I just looked at your dress and I said I liked it. I was telling you are addressing my issue. I like my dress too. And so she went back to and I said, you know what? The point I'm making is that we want to start an advocacy in this country where we do not just dish out things because it's convenient. We call it inside out. What works for us is what we dish out for you, whether it works for you or not. So we should rethink. Sometimes our difficult, but not sometimes, our difficult customers actually help us. But we say that the complaining customer gives you a gift. Do you give gifts to your enemies? You give gifts to our friends. So they give you feedback. It's not always pleasant. Why is it that your place is too hot? Why is it that your place is too cold? They say things like that, which you don't like to hear. Nobody else says it because they're being too polite. But they tell you as it is. And when they do, those people become your advocates for life. Because they know they got that route and you sorted that out. Since he has this book, let's do it.
I was going to ask if you've ever worked with any microfinance institutions
Oh, yes.
and suggestions you have for businesses operating in that industry.
Number one, in terms of the customer, I see that the microfinance people depends. Some of them seem to think, oh, they go to the market women, so anything goes. And sometimes the way they treat the people, it's like, hey, they will sure you have to bring the money, especially if it's a loan. They don't treat them with the courtesy that was expected of them. So I would say broadly that microfinance should be your customer, you are saying micro. Micro is a lot, and that's why everybody's going to microfinance, isn't it? But if you don't focus on your customers, they like to be treated with respect as well. And if you don't know how to tell the difference, and the fact that somebody can't write or is not wearing the poshest of clothes means that they should be put in the back room or something like that. So microfinance know that yes, you're going to deal with people in the trenches, so to speak, but in dealing with them, you begin to understand their psyche and the way they do things and treat them as such.
You said number one. Is that all?
That's
number one.
Number one, okay. So number one was more about dealing with your customers and dealing with them well, and then of course tailoring the products that will suit their needs and making it as simple as possible, because if you make it complex, they don't understand all that. And getting your people to be adaptable, speaking the local language you need, even if you can't speak the language, a little bit here.
Customers are the same. And then the understanding is that clients or customers are the ones that give you money. But the way my business works is I have another section of people who come on the website to look for a service, but they don't pay us. So the section is the focus. Where should it be? Because the people that we call customers who will pay us eventually are not the people that come to look for the services that we offer on the side.
So then I have to clarify further the customer base, because they are also the potential buyer. So those people who come are potential buyers. So you should treat them, if you have to spend 3 hours with somebody, certainly you want to spend it with the one who is paying you. But you should also know that the potential buyer would be the customer. And so when we define broadly, we actually include potential people who are likely to be your customers. And the fact that you allow them access is that you're saying, come and see what I have. After a while, after they interact with you, they like what they see, what you give, they will also come forward.
spoke about staff, you spoke about the customer. There are certain times in which you find yourself in a business whereby there's a wide range of things. For example, if you take the microfinance, probably maybe you have a lot of branches or you have a lot of people you have to deal with, and people speak different languages, a whole lot. Okay, so that's just an example. But it could be in any area. But there are so many different, you have different categories of customers, and it's difficult to meet all of them. So what they do,
You start from somewhere, and that somewhere is one, first of all, knowing who your customers are. You've identified that. That's why we call it segmenting the market. So you segment the market and provide as much as possible to that group. And you would find that with time, it will be telling you what they like or don't like, so to speak. And so you could be eliminating things. You know, like airlines. I mean, when you're flying, somebody said, we're all going to one destination. What should I care whether I'm sitting in the front or the back? Yes, but if you're sitting in the front, you enjoy some comfort, isn't it? Which we all, if we can afford, would like to enjoy that comfort. But it doesn't. But then there are some people who say, really, I don't really care. There are others who say that I can't sleep on an airplane. I will pay for that comfort to sleep. I, for example, I can stand in the airplane, I can kneel in the airplane, I will sleep. So what I'm trying to say is that, so in identifying the customer, there are some people who must be in the business class, either because of what they do, or because of the discomfort they suffer, or whatever, the pleasure they get in certain things. You've categorized them for a certain thing. And with it, you would assume they would want champagne, and if it's some, probably won't want champagne, you would have the orange juice. So he might as well be in the next seat backwards, and it won't make a difference. So if you identify your customers, segment them, and provide as much as possible what people like. And that's what I'm saying, that sometimes we need to ask the customers, what do you really want? And there are ways of asking them. Because if you don't ask, you will assume that anybody who sits in business class loves champagne and wine. That would be an error. You would assume that every high net worth client would like to be served tea and coffee. That could be an error. Because some of them will say, just give me the fastest speed internet and I'm okay. That is my idea. And you can give somebody also in the same bracket or higher bracket, highest internet speed, and it will never be switched off. Whatever be used. So it means that it's not just a blanket thing. That if you have variety of products or services, then it's like you can pick and choose. Don't know whether that's answers.
yes, that's understanding. Now the next thing is how important are you? So, for example, in a bank situation whereby they set you probably in a queue, so probably sits, wait till their call, wait till it's their turn, and they don't spend that much time in the bank. Some people sometimes will approach you with the questionnaire, approach you with the, that, how do you identify the needs of the customer?
Different ways. There's not one way. Sometimes because you're talking about the bank, they use focus group where you have people in a room, they tell you what they want or don't like. You ask them structured questions. Sometimes they can fill questionnaires. And if your client is like Sammy Kane, you probably want to send it to him online, he doesn't want the paper-based one. So you're asking the same question, different people are using different ways. So that's one way. The best one is when you have interaction with them. When you are interacting with your clients. I remember we opened a branch of a picture filming company on Spectex because our clients said, oh, why didn't you come to Spectex? Why didn't you come to Spectex? We opened it. We did 7 years there. Spectex was a place for us. People would come all the way from Ghana to we didn't do any research. When we went for the shop, we got it so easy. We thought, oh, that must be it. Nothing there. So yesterday, a client asked me, why didn't you come to school? I said, we tried to at the time, anything still. This was like a dormitory town. We tried to fix things. We would close later in Springtech so people could meet us. But they still wouldn't come to Springtech. We would open earlier, they just wouldn't come to Springtech. So so the client has a certain orientation. In fact, we used to even keep long hours, but after some time, things in the country change. All decided that, look, if I want to do this thing, I'll do it during my lunch break. I'm not going to do it after work. Because I want to beat the traffic, which wasn't the case. So your clients are always saying something. You look at the pattern. They're open till 7, and between 6 and 7, no client comes for a whole year or 6 months or whatever. Where did they all go? But they'll show up 10 o'clock in the morning or at midday. So the client is telling you something. You've got to be listening or observing. Everybody's telling me their name, even though you're not here when I introduce myself. Please can you do the same?
My name is Frank, the younger one. Mine will be a contribution. I have to do some transfer of funds next week. So I decided I will spend this week. I have 3 banks, so I will go to various banks, see the rates, see the charges, and decide.
Yes.
Since we don't want to mention names, I'll call them Bank A and Bank B. So I went to Bank A yesterday for them to write the rates and the charges. Okay, I said okay. So I'll try Bank B. So I went to one branch of Bank B this morning. When I spoke to your front desk lady, she said something, but for some reason I thought she wasn't giving me accurate information. So I decided I'll go to another branch of the same bank. So I got there, got the information. I thought that was more authentic. And she gave me more time, even went ahead to ask if I had internet banking, and told me if I did internet banking, I'll have it half the rate. And that's what good anticipation of my needs. So she said, oh, she can even make it for me. So I gave her my ATM card, and we sat down. She put me on to internet banking. And guess what? I think I wanted to do it next week. I did it today.
Wow. That's a good story, isn't it? And the lesson there also is that that's where the people come in. And so we have to hire the right people. And so when you have multiple branches, it looks like you have difficulty getting that replicated, because that's always been a challenge. And that's where, as I said at the beginning, having standards, the standards which say that you must cross-sell a product to a client. And if you identify the customer's needs, it's through the discussion. So next, but being interested in what does he really want to do. He wants to have transfer, and it must be done now. Because why do you want to wait next week? She could even tell you the rates may change. So that person is speaking to your wants and your needs all at once. And that differentiates that service provider from another. And some of them are natural, but majority need to be taught.
You mentioned lean culture. And I believe I think that lean culture coming so close to the customers as possible.
Yes. Culture, in terms of coming close to the culture and the customers, and not having a long chain or hierarchy. Yes.
Now, so there are leadership skills, leadership types.
Yes.
And is there, for customer service, do you think there's one particular leadership type that fits best?
We're talking about the leadership type, whether there's a particular leadership focus. I think that generally, people who want to grow their staff and who are passionate about customers should be good at managing. But anybody who manages people is doing that. And if you have set this standard for yourself, this is how we want our customers to be treated, and you are a leader, you must one first of all be demonstrating that what is the leader. What you say and do, and what the people do. You can tell them, smile to the customers, but if you see that every time a customer comes, there comes trouble. And that's the way you interact with them. They will always think that the customers are also trouble. So I would say that the leader must also have customers in their, shall I say, things that they do, focusing on the customer.
I meant to, for example, there are certain scenarios in which you like a centralized system is best, and certain places where like a centralized system is best, certain places where like dictatorship system is better. These are very, I mean, looking at those kind of styles of leadership. I was asking that when it comes to customers, is there any time that doesn't fit the best in them or works well with the customer?
Well, first of all, the customer is not your employee. So you cannot, I mean, what you're talking about is like what style to use depending on the situation, situational leaders. And I'm saying that your customer is not your employee. So you're not managing them in that stance where you say, sit here. You understand? Your customer is your customer. So at all times, you must remain polite, friendly, and things like that. Of course, if there's a fire, then you must get all the customers out. You're not going to say, oh, please, you don't want to get burned. Then that style will come in. But when you're dealing with your team members, they must understand that this is the way we want to go. This is how we treat our customers. And if you remain in this shop, this is the way we do it. So that territorial part will come in terms of setting the standards. But I don't think we translate it in the way you're describing it to our customers. I hope I have answered your question. Yes, sir.
Oh, no.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess our time is almost up.
It's been very good.
Thank you.
I have been sitting here just listening to her, and it's interesting. Some mistakes I've made that I need to correct as soon as we leave here. So, but it's been very insightful, and on behalf of everyone here, thank you, and hopefully we can have you here again, because she touched on a couple of concepts that she said I'm not going to be covered in this session. So hopefully we can bring you back. You can take us through that. Also, I don't know if you can spend maybe a minute or two to talk about the customer service academy, just so we understand what it is and we can either attend or tell our friends about it.
So thank you. So that's like a PR session there. Okay. Our company was set up initially to do customer service training, consulting, service measures, everything to do with customers. But increasingly, I mean, we have people requesting for opportunity to be trained. We used to do the training in-house with clients. We say we gather a group of people and we train. But the academy was set up to give people the opportunity not to close shop, but bring 2 people, 3 people, 10 people at a time to have training. And currently we have 3 main levels. The first level is what we call the essentials of service, the basics everybody needs to know about customer service. We've gone past the stage where we thought it was common sense, because it is not always so. And then the next bit is where, so essentials of service talks about first impressions, it talks about courtesy, it talks about ethics in service, and then we have four fundamentals or essentials, and then we talk about effective communication. And effective communication has been rated by most of our customers, whether they're in sales or in operations, as something that is really very useful, because irrespective of where you work, you need to have effective communication. So that forms our essentials of service model. Then we have complaint handling. To answer her question, we have a able to give people skills how to deal with an irate, difficult customer and how to manage them. And these things are actually life transforming, because if you are able to deal with a difficult customer, you can deal with a difficult spouse or friend. And then we also do the relationship management, which is dealing with managing client relationships. Like he said, he has clients and different types. So different clients or customers have different times. Time that you need to spend because of their needs. Some of them will require more time. So how to break the client base into different segments and know how much time and effort to spend to that population. And of course we have for executive, if the team wants to train, we can do a 2-hour session for the executive team, to understand, because most of the time you have a mixture of people. And we have the finance or the IT and all those people. And when they sit at the table to talk about the company, let's do the real stuff. And then customer service, everybody can do it. So you always have that conflict occurring. But if everybody understands that, if you put it as part of your strategy, just as you have your strategy for growing the business and other things, you will see that it will really put everybody on one page and have effectiveness. And then we have something we call service quality. We were actually scheduled initially, that's why I was silent when you were calling, to have one this week. But another company has asked us to do it on a larger scale. But the service quality initially was targeted at people in the service quality functions and people who are in leadership, so that they understand strategy formulation, implementation, making sure it goes down, and it gives them the tool to actually create and implement a customer service agenda in any business, so that's the service quality. And then we have quarterly leadership workshops, which is not under the academy. We cover a lot of things, a 3-day intensive course: performance management, delegation, time management, a whole lot.
Interesting. We have a question from one of the online viewers.
Okay.
Jennifer, do you want to read it?
So he's asking if you can elaborate on how one can cultivate corporate customers.
Corporate customers.
How do you cultivate corporate customers?
First of all, we're talking about needs, isn't it? So it comes to segmentation and so on and so forth. So knowing your clients, your corporate customers are not all of the same size, so to speak. So how you have to know the key people, what their needs are. You've got to ask them, the person that you're dealing with. Sometimes there are people behind the scenes that you're dealing with, and you have to know what their expectations are of your outfit or the business, and so that you can provide them. In a nutshell, the whole workshop. Yeah.
It's Margaret, I know we've closed, but that's maybe. Do we have different types of customer service? Because my experience in the I've worked in the formal sector before, where I did a bit of customer service and relationship management and all that. And so I left the formal sector, coming into the informal sector, and thinking that I can transfer the same experience. And I realized it doesn't work like that at that side. The niceties with engaging the formal sector people doesn't necessarily work with the informal sector people. So does it mean that do you have to adapt different approaches dealing with these other group of people who might understand different language?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by formal and informal, but my understanding is customers are customers and they have different needs and wants. I mean, if you went to a market woman wearing a 3-piece suit and you spoke all the grammar you know to impress them about your product, it won't work. So, the approach should be different, But doesn't mean that you won't say the pleases and the thank yous and using the courtesy because they are. And when I was talking about the essentials of attitude, big things, attitude is one of the essentials of service. Attitudes.
So I get the impression, you're saying to her that focus on the customer's needs as opposed to the attitude in terms of the please and the thank you. Because customers essentially interact with us, service providers, because of the needs that they have. It's not because they like our face or just because they don't have anything else to do. And as long as we satisfy their wants and their needs, then they'll keep coming back.
Yes. But when she said informal, as I said, I didn't quite understand. That's why I went straight to the market women, because again, when you go to the financial sector, you have different people coming in from different backgrounds. Some can write, some can't write. You can't just say fill the form. And even translating it even into a restaurant. I mean, the meal has been served and everybody's supposed to go. But there's someone who's in a wheelchair. Do you say dinner is served? Get up and go. You know, so yes, we're all here for the same thing, but our needs are different. So you've got to, get to the point where you unless you want to clarify the informal and formal.
Let me be specific. I've worked in one organization where I dealt with, let's say, bankers, insurance companies, and all that. When you are managing the expectations or you are managing their needs, should I say it's easier? I mean, if an irate customer from a bank is calling, you know how to deal with it. So I move from that sector and then I come to sell baby diapers where you have to deal with a lot of the market women buy in bulk and all that. And so you still want to transfer your niceties to them, but the other thing is when you are nice with them, it means you are weak. All right. And so
that's your view.
Or that's the experience.
That's the experience.
Yes, it wasn't once, it wasn't twice, it's not thrice. I mean, it's a trend.
Yes, but you see, being fair does not mean you should be nasty. This is the price, and Jacosia, you must pay the price like everybody else.
Hey, Tim, it's
That's what she gets.
So, again, who say, and Jacosia, you see, you are being firm. You need that what's the word you use? Being firm in dealing with that type of client. And they are not all like that. So don't put them all in the box. There are some who will, I mean, they haven't consciously said, you didn't say good morning or good evening or good night to me. That's why I'm not buying from you. But they like to be treated with respect. The fact that I said idea, it doesn't mean I'm quarreling with you. That's my style. Take me. And your customer will come in any shape or size, whether in the bank or whether they are in the market.
let me give you another example.
Okay.
No, I'm honestly, I've been struggling with that.
With that, yes.
I have a customer, let's say she's got like 80 packs, and normally we give 2 weeks credit, and we've dealt with you for a while, so you know we give 2 weeks credit, alright? It's been a month, it's been 2 months, it's not coming. Alright, so we call a couple of times. Can we have the money coming? Can we have payment? Then the back can I come and pick it up myself or whatever? Then we get it, we give up, and then I'm not. So if 3 months.
So this is not the customer. This is someone who doesn't pay their bills on time, and you find them everywhere. What you do? Yes, she's a customer. What you do is you change your model. You make a deposit. You make a deposit. You see, and be firm with the deposit. I mean, we have somebody who will bring a whole thing to be framed, big thing, big shot, well known, and you break the rule which says make a deposit. The thing is sitting in your shop. You can't do anything with it. And if it's a portrait, I mean, how can you take somebody you don't know what to put in your house? If it's a painting, you can sell it. You understand? So the rules are there. So you've got to change your rules where you make a deposit. Because see, when a customer makes a deposit, sometimes we think it's just when they make a deposit, cost their money will come back. So such a person, you have to change the rules for her sake. You don't have to change it for everybody. But she may have to leave something like a security or, I mean, you can talk about it in detail, but think through it. What can she leave so that she can't just throw you off? And if she's difficult in delivery, next time she doesn't get the 2 weeks everybody gets.
So if you're talking to this customer like that?
Yeah, if you think her business is not good enough, I mean, is she bringing the money eventually?
I mean, she eventually comes to be, but not everything.
So she's not a credit worthy person. One gets come across people who are not credit worthy. You know. So if you were to categorize them, those who pay on time and those who don't. So you give the incentive. Those who pay on time, maybe you get a little discount. Those who don't pay, you double the price. So whenever they pay, you don't lose anything. You know. So we have to keep thinking and re-engineering our own minds and attitudes towards the people we're dealing with. But you see, that's why I say that we treat 99% like an apple because of this individual. That's called activity. Because of that, you start treating all the others shabbily. You can't get credit, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know.
As a follow-up question to how to cultivate the corporate customer, he's asking that he says by cultivate, he means how do you get the audience for your product to break through? You need to get your, what do you call it? More like how do you get to your corporate customers?
How do you get them? There are different ways of, whether it's advertising, selling the product, going to them face to face to tell them what you have to offer. So you've got to let your product be known to the customer. And you are targeting them based on what you perceive to be a need. And if they fit into that mode, then that becomes the.
I think what we can do is for this particular question, we can ask him to send him or her to send a more elaborate email, and then we can send it on to this station. I think our time is up. We're trying these days to start on time and end on time. So when we're breaking bread, we can interact and ask some more questions. And I thought that I would say there was a time when I didn't believe that you could actually get it, and I can relate with them. And in this case, it wasn't even a client. This was someone that was worked at the IRS, by the way. And very difficult woman, extremely difficult. We had a training. I don't know how many of you have read this book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. I recommend that book for everyone. We just gone through reading that book, and we just hired an accountant because of his maturity and his approach to life. That's one of the reasons why we hired him. And we went to then they were IRS, now the GRA. We get there, and I watched this guy interact with this woman, and our policy, the company, that company, and the company, this company, we don't pay bribe. We don't give tips, whatever you want to call it. We have policies for gifts, and it has to be a total. So I watched this man, and believe it or not, walk into this man's office, and we bought bottled water. And I watched him, I drank mine, he didn't drink his. We entered there, and we sit down, and first thing, calls the woman auntie. So I never would call the woman auntie. I just go in there. And I was actually going to introduce him to her and hand over. He calls her auntie. Hey, and speaking in the local language. I would always go with my English. I always go speaking. And you know what he did, which I found interesting. And see, Sansu cried a bit who cried and he speaks in Creole. So, me who Sansu cried. What's that? I see whatever market issue. What's the head again? I made me balance and Tom Brown. I was like, oh. But the woman starts, if she'd been a white woman, she would have flashed. Oh, me just it. Oh. And that meeting was the best meeting we had at IRS.
The building of rapport.
So that's a lesson we can all take, and that's something that I think may help you with your customers as well. Especially with the market women, they like to be treated like they're also madams. So, thank you very much, and I think it's time for us to go and yes, I
think you had another game inside, so I just